Imagine discovering that the one thing you do every single day to stay alive, right, eating, is actually the exact same thing preventing your body from ever truly healing.
Yeah, it's a wild thought.
Right, like that the simple everyday act of just chewing and swallowing solid food is keeping your nervous system in this state of perpetual low-grade panic.
It's an incredibly jarring concept to wrap your head around, honestly, because we are so conditioned to view eating as, the ultimate nourishing act.
Of
But
course.
when you look at the sheer biological tax it demands, it completely flips our understanding of energy, of illness, and even how our own consciousness operates.
Exactly. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring some really fascinating and frankly highly provocative excerpts from a radical text called Systemic Sovereignty, The Alchemy of Liquid Intake.
Mhm.
Our mission today is to, well, unpack this source's central premise, which is that the human body was actually never designed to process solid food indefinitely. And furthermore, that completely removing solids can initiate this like profound healing process, not just for our physical cells, but for our consciousness and our connection to the world around us.
And before we really get into the weeds of this, we just need to establish a very clear baseline for you listening. We are not doctors.
Definitely not.
And the purpose of this deep dive is absolutely not to endorse a liquid diet or like prescribe any kind of medical or nutritional protocol for you. Our goal here is purely exploratory.
Yeah, we're just mapping this out.
Exactly. We are going to impartially map out the logic and the physiological arguments presented in this text. Because, whether you ultimately agree with its conclusions or not, it offers this drastically different, deeply thought-provoking perspective on human physiology.
It really does. So let's start right at the foundation. Before we can even touch the text's proposed cure, which is liquid intake, we have to look at how the author redefines the problem.
Right, the problem of digestion itself.
Yeah. According to this source, the primary antagonist of human health is digestion. The text actually refers to the human body as a cosmic filter, which is a pretty big term. How does the author bridge the gap between human anatomy and that kind of language?
So the source takes a really hard look at modern anatomy's rather sterile view of digestion. Normally, we view the digestive tract as just a purely mechanical tube, right?
Like plumbing.
Exactly, like plumbing. Food goes in, nutrients are extracted on this biological assembly line, and waste goes out.
Mm.
But the text argues this is a dangerously incomplete picture. It asks us to look at the actual tissue makeup of the gut.
Okay, what's down there?
Well, your digestive tract houses the densest concentration of enteric nervous tissue outside of your brain.
Wow. I've heard people call it the second brain, actually. But what does that actually mean, functionally?
Functionally, it means your gut isn't just this mindlessly crushing machine. It's a massive, highly sensitive sensory organ. I mean, the enteric nervous system is lined with more serotonin-producing cells than any other part of your body.
Wait, really? More than the brain?
Yeah, way more. And it contains your largest population of immune cells, too.
Yeah.
So all of this architecture is in direct, continuous communication with your brain via the vagal axis.
The vagal axis meaning the vagus nerve.
Yes, exactly. Think of the vagus nerve as a massive biological fiber optic cable running straight from your gut up to your brainstem.
Okay.
It transmits data at incredible speeds. So the text argues that digestion is not just some background physiological chore, it is literally the central event of your nervous system.
Right.
When your digestive system is laboring, which, if you eat 3 solid meals a day plus snacks, it's basically always doing.
Yeah.
It is sending a continuous stream of data up that fiber optic cable.
That makes me think of a smartphone. Like, when your phone is running incredibly hot, the battery is draining by the minute, and every time you try to open just a simple text message, the whole interface lags.
Oh yeah, the spinning wheel of death.
Right, and then you check your settings and realize you've got some massive, heavy application constantly running in the background, quietly eating up all your CPU power. According to this text, digestion is that heavy background app.
That analogy hits the nail on the head.
Yeah.
And the text details exactly how that battery drain manifests physically.
How so?
Well, because of that constant communication up the vagus nerve, the continuous labor of digesting solids keeps your immune system perpetually activated. It keeps the hormonal field tilted slightly towards stress response hormones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, your nervous system is essentially forced into what the author calls a posture of management. It creates a mild, continuous sympathetic activation.
Meaning like a low-grade fight or flight response.
Precisely. Sympathetic activation is your body's threat management mode.
Okay.
Even though you aren't running from a tiger, the sheer amount of energy required to process complex solids tells your nervous system, hey, we're dealing with a heavy load right now. Stay vigilant.
But surely the type of food matters here, right? Like if I'm eating a fast food burger, obviously I get the heavy load. But what if you are eating, I don't know, the cleanest, most pristine, organic, farm-to-table diet on Earth?
Right.
Because the standard advice is that if you just eat clean, your body will thrive. Does the text view that as a problem too?
It does. And this is where the text really diverges from conventional wellness advice. The source actually distinguishes between two distinct burdens that solid food places on the body.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first is purely mechanical. Breaking down any solid matter, even a freshly picked organic apple, requires an immense metabolic cost.
Yeah.
You have to initiate complex enzymatic cascades.
Right.
You have the muscular effort of peristalsis, the literal contractions pushing the food through yards of intestines. Then you have the immune surveillance we just talked about, and the massive tax on the liver to filter all of it.
So it's just exhausting.
Yeah. That mechanical tax exists purely because of the physics of dense matter.
Yeah.
It's labor.
So the sheer physics of breaking it down is exhausting the body. But, I mean, the mechanical breakdown of an apple is just standard biology. If that apple is coated in synthetic pesticides, suddenly the body isn't just a crushing machine. It has to become like a hazmat team.
Exactly. Which brings us to the second burden, the chemical one.
Mm-hmm.
The text goes really deep into the specific harms of industrial contaminants. We're talking about pesticides, synthetic preservatives, heavy metals, and plasticizers from packaging.
The stuff that's everywhere now.
Right. And the author points out that these compounds don't just pass cleanly through our digestive tract. Because the body is so overwhelmed by the mechanical labor of digestion we just talked about, it can't properly process these toxins, so it stores them.
Where do they go?
They embed themselves deeply into our fatty tissues.
Wow. And the text explains how these chemicals essentially act like Trojan horses, right? Like, it's not just that they sit in our fat cells like inert garbage. They actively corrupt our biological software.
They absolutely do. Many of these industrial compounds are structurally similar to the body's own chemical messengers. They act as endocrine disruptors, specifically xenoestrogens or neurotransmitter analogs.
Which means what, exactly?
It means that because they share a sort of lock-and-key mechanism with our natural hormones, a synthetic molecule from, say, a plastic wrapper can fit perfectly into a cellular receptor meant for a natural hormone.
Oh, man. So the cell receives a signal that shouldn't be fired. It's literal corrupted data.
Yes. The result is systemic confusion at a molecular level. You have cells receiving contradictory instructions about metabolism, about mood regulation, cellular division. The organs are literally operating on this corrupted data.
That is terrifying.
And the source makes a very bold claim here. It states that the emotional dysregulation, the cognitive fog, the sort of spiritual flatness that so many people feel today, these aren't just psychological flaws. They have actual chemical correlates.
I mean, if you are listening to this right now and you regularly experience that dense, like, 2 o'clock brain fog, or your mood just spikes and crashes unpredictably, the text is validating exactly what you're feeling.
Yeah, completely.
It's not a lack of willpower. Your body is literally operating on corrupted chemical data. And because all your energy is tied up in the mechanical labor of digesting the solid food, you don't have the spare energetic capital to detoxify those chemical contaminants. You're trapped.
Exactly. You are caught in this cycle of always managing the intake rather than clearing the accumulation.
So, okay, if solid food is causing all this physiological traffic and pollution, what actually happens internally when someone switches to a liquid protocol?
Yeah.
What does the body do when that heavy background app is finally closed?
This brings us to what the text considers the hidden hero of human physiology, the lymphatic system.
Ah.
The lymphatic system is this vast network essential for immune surveillance and waste clearance. It's responsible for collecting cellular debris, metabolic byproducts, and foreign compounds from the fluid between your cells and moving them out of the body.
But the lymphatic system has a major design flaw compared to our blood vessels, doesn't it? Like, it doesn't have a built-in motor.
Right, the heart pumps your blood. But the lymphatic system has no central pump. The text describes it as a passive river.
A passive river.
Yeah. It only moves through the mechanical action of your breathing, your muscular movement, and internal pressure differentials. Because it is completely passive, it is incredibly vulnerable to stagnation.
Let me guess. The constant digestion of solid food creates that stagnation. How exactly does that happen?
It comes down to fat absorption. When you eat a heavy meal, especially one that's high in fats and proteins, those fats are packaged into microscopic particles called chylomicrons in the small intestine.
Okay, chylomicrons.
Right, and these particles are actually too large to enter your bloodstream directly. Instead, they get shoved into the lacteals, which are tiny lymphatic vessels in the gut.
So wait, every time you eat a heavy meal, you are dumping a massive load of fat particles directly into this passive river.
Yes, and you combine that structural bottleneck with the constant immune activation from food antigens,
Uh-huh.
and your lymph nodes are just kept in a state of perpetual, sluggish overstimulation.
Huh.
Over decades of eating 3 meals a day, this river slows down to a crawl. The nodes become burdened, the tissues start accumulating the waste that the lymph can no longer clear out.
It's like a city street sweeper. The lymphatic system is the sweeper trying to clean up the cellular environment, right?
hmm
But if the streets are constantly jammed with heavy bumper-to-bumper traffic, which is the constant absorption of solid matter, the street sweeper simply can't move. It gets stuck in the intersection, and the garbage just piles up on the sidewalks.
And that piled up garbage is the root of systemic inflammation. So what happens when you introduce a liquid protocol? The text emphasizes minerally rich water, alkaline formulations, and botanical extracts known as lymphagogues.
Lymphagogues.
Yeah, these are specific herbs that naturally stimulate lymphatic flow. When you remove the dense solid traffic, you create what the author calls systemic decompression.
The traffic clears out.
The traffic vanishes. Finally, the street sweeper can get to work. The lymph starts flowing. Stored waste in the tissues is mobilized. And crucially, the liver can enter what the text calls deeper processing cycles.
What does that mean for the cells?
Well, when the liver isn't constantly fielding new nutrients and toxins from the gut, it can initiate autophagy, which is the clearing out of dead or senescent cells. The cellular environment actually begins to purify itself.
So the physical body gets swept clean, the immune system calms down, and the nervous system shifts via that vagus nerve we talked about from the sympathetic threat management mode into parasympathetic rest and repair dominance. But this is where the text sort of pivots from biology into something much deeper. It doesn't stop at physical health. It argues that this physical clearing fundamentally alters our consciousness.
It does. It really takes a leap. The text posits that the body isn't just a biological machine that happens to produce consciousness as a random byproduct. It actually views the body as crystallized consciousness.
Crystallized consciousness.
Yeah, it's a concentrated physical expression of a much larger universal intelligence.
Okay, but how does drinking botanical extracts and skipping solid food change that consciousness neurologically? Like, what's the mechanism?
It all comes down to the reallocation of energy. When you are constantly digesting, the text argues that your neurological and energetic bandwidth is basically trapped in the lower centers of the body.
Like the gut.
The gut, the root, the solar plexus. These physiological areas are completely occupied with managing dense, heavy material. When you remove that dense material, the nervous system reorganizes itself.
And the energy moves.
Right. The energy is freed up and moves to the upper centers, the heart, the throat, the higher cognitive and intuitive faculties of the brain.
The author actually pulls from ancient historical and cultural traditions to show that this isn't just some brand new modern biohacking theory, right? They map this exact biological shift onto traditions that are thousands of years old.
Yeah, they point out that pretty much every serious contemplative tradition has recognized this specific mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Ayurveda, there's the concept of ohas.
What is ohas?
It's a subtle essence responsible for immense vitality, immunity, and mental clarity. But ohas is considered the ultimate, final byproduct of perfect digestion. It literally takes weeks for the body to distill food into ohas.
So if you're always eating.
Exactly. If you're constantly shoving new, heavy food into the system, you never reach that refined stage.
Wow.
And in Taoism, there's the practice of bigu, which literally translates to avoiding grains or avoiding solid food. It was a literal physical practice used by Taoist monks to preserve Jing, the foundational essence of the body, which allowed them to access higher meditative states.
And there's a yogic parallel too, right?
Well, in the yogic traditions, they speak of sattva, which is a state of luminous mental clarity that is cultivated by very light intake. And it's destroyed by tamasic or heavy inert matter.
I think it's really vital to point out to you listening that the author is not speaking metaphorically here. Like, they aren't saying that eating a light salad makes you feel light as a feather in some poetic sense.
No, not at all.
They are claiming a direct phenomenological link. Dense, heavy matter produces a dense, heavy state of consciousness. period.
Mhm.
And no matter, or liquid intake produces light, expansive states of consciousness. It is a literal biological equation for them.
Right, because a nervous system that is always managing digestion is a nervous system that is always slightly defended. It's too busy managing the perimeter to be fully open or available to deeper intuitive signals.
That makes total sense.
When you quiet the digestive noise, the felt sense sharpens. Emotional processing accelerates. The author argues that states of deep stillness and presence that might normally require a week-long silent meditation retreat suddenly become accessible in your ordinary waking life, simply because you've removed the static.
Okay, I need to stop you there, though. We've gone from cellular autophagy and lymphatic drainage to higher consciousness. But I'm looking at this next chapter title, and it's literally about healing everything about, in, of, and with all of existence.
Yeah, it gets big.
Claiming that skipping a turkey sandwich for lunch clears up your emotional trauma is one thing, but claiming it heals the universe sounds, frankly, incredibly pseudoscientific. That is an enormous metaphysical leap. How does the text actually bridge the gap between human digestion and the relational field without losing all physiological credibility?
I know it sounds like pure hyperbole.
Uh,
But the text is actually grounding this in the science of nervous system co-regulation. It asks us to view the human body not as a closed container, totally separate from the world, but as a node in a larger field.
like a router on a Wi-Fi network.
Exactly like that. You are in continuous biological and energetic exchange with your environment. We know this scientifically.
Right.
Your microbiome interacts with the soil. Your heart produces an electromagnetic field that extends beyond your skin. And crucially, human nervous systems co-regulate with each other.
Oh, like if you walk into a room with someone who is silently panicking, your nervous system detects it and responds.
Yes, exactly. The text argues that when a body is burdened by solids, chemical contaminants, and that constant mechanical labor, that chaotic burden doesn't stay trapped under your skin. It shapes what your node projects outward.
Wait, so a noisy, biologically burdened body projects nervous system noise to everyone around it.
Yes. A burdened organism doesn't perceive situations clearly. It is operating in that sympathetic threat management state we talked about earlier.
Right, the posture of management.
Yeah. Therefore, it reacts defensively to its partner. It brings a frantic, scattered energy to a meeting. The art it creates feels dense. Its outputs all carry the invisible signature of its internal burdened state.
But if you remove that primary obstacle, like if you switch to a liquid protocol, clear the lymphatic stagnation and let the body's self-healing intelligence take over, you clear the node. You stop transmitting static.
You clear the node.
Yeah.
And because you are embedded in the larger network of human existence, when you heal your internal biological state, you fundamentally change what you radiate outward into the relational field.
Wow.
You change the quality of presence you bring to every single interaction. That is how the text believes you heal with all of existence. It's not magic. It's a ripple effect starting from your own internal coherence.
Okay, even if we accept that logic, practically speaking, how does someone navigate a shift this extreme safely? Giving up solid food entirely isn't just a diet change. It's a fundamental rewiring of how you interact with society.
Oh, absolutely.
Every celebration, every holiday, every social gathering is built around solid food. Does the text advocate for like a strict 30-day juice fast and tell you to just isolate yourself?
Not at all.
Mm.
The text handles this under a concept it calls duration and discernment, and is actually very grounded. The author explicitly states that this document is not a prescription. There is no rigid 30-day timeline.
Okay, so what is the practice then?
What it offers is a logic of healing. The relationship between removing solids and experiencing that healing isn't identical across all bodies.
Mhm.
It depends entirely on your current toxic load, your emotional context, and what kind of bioavailable liquids you're consuming to support the process.
Oh, I see. So it's advocating for a bottom-up approach rather than a top-down diet plan.
Precisely. The text argues that as you begin to reduce solids and the deafening noise of digestion quiets down, you develop what it calls somatic perception.
Somatic perception.
Yeah. You regain the ability to actually feel your body's subtle communications. Your body will signal its readiness to go deeper. It will signal resistance when it feels overwhelmed by the detox process. It will tell you when it needs movement and when it requires stillness.
So you have to learn to listen.
Right. The core practice isn't just stubbornly drinking liquids. The practice is learning to listen to those somatic signals without the interference of a heavy digestive load.
It's really about developing an intimate trust with your own physiological intelligence.
The text fundamentally believes that the body, when trusted and listened to, always moves toward its own healing. Removing solids isn't forcing the body to do something unnatural or punishing it. It's simply removing the roadblocks so the physical architecture can do what it was always designed to do: clear out the debris and return to a state of equilibrium.
Well, to bring this all together for you listening, we've just explored a truly radical paradigm from systemic sovereignty. We've looked at the provocative idea of the body as a cosmic filter, where the everyday act of digesting solid food is viewed as a continuous, exhausting, energetic tax on our nervous and immune systems.
Hmm.
We've explored the hidden mechanisms of how industrial chemicals act as corrupted data in our cells, and how the passive river of our lymphatic system gets jammed up by the sheer mechanical traffic of heavy meals.
Yeah, that street sweeper analogy.
Exactly. And ultimately, how the text argues that removing that solid material creates a systemic decompression, a profound shift that allows our physical cells to clean house and our consciousness to shift from heavy defended management into a state of light, luminous clarity.
It really is a sweeping reframing of human biology.
Ugh.
Regardless of whether you ever feel compelled to experiment with a liquid protocol, the text forces us to reckon with a very uncomfortable reality.
Which is?
Just how much of our precious life force is dedicated purely to processing what we unconsciously consume.
It really is a fascinating lens for viewing our daily energy expenditure. Which brings us to a final thought for you to ponder today as you go about your week. Let's return to that idea of the body as a node in a network, radiating our internal state outward.
Right.
If digestion is truly our heaviest internal burden, keeping our nervous system in a constant state of low-level alarm, what subtle, chaotic signals are we constantly, unknowingly transmitting to our friends, our family, and our coworkers simply because our bodies are working overtime to process the heavy lunch we just ate? Are we truly interacting with the world, or are we just projecting the noise of our own idling engines?